Jorge Mario Bergoglio, dead at the age of 88 after a sudden stroke and heart failure.
On April 21st, 2025, the death of Pope Francis marked the end of a turbulent papacy, one that deeply impacted not only the Catholic Church, but also the world at large. His passing has given rise to a wave of unanswered questions, particularly surrounding the mysteries that shrouded his final days. Amid this atmosphere of uncertainty, a strange and compelling story began to surface, centered around the Vatican Guard, those who were by his side during his last moments. Their testimonies have not only shocked many, but also raised profound doubts about the true cause of Pope Francis's death. Could there be truths the Vatican intends to keep hidden forever? Join us in today's video as we uncover the story. 1. The death of Pope Francis. On April 21, 2025, the official announcement of Pope Francis's passing was made public, marking the end of a tumultuous and transformative papacy. This loss not only shocked the Catholic Church, but also stirred a wave of mourning across the globe, as millions of believers from all corners of the world simultaneously expressed their reverence. Although no one could have precisely predicted when such an influential era would conclude, Pope Francis's death has left countless unanswered questions, particularly concerning his health and what truly happened during his final days. In the final years of his life, the Pope faced a series of serious health issues. In early 2025, while the faithful still hoped he would continue leading the Church, his medical condition began to be publicly disclosed. By February 2025, he was hospitalized with a severe illness that was later identified as a complicated respiratory infection. His condition quickly deteriorated, leading to bilateral pneumonia, a particularly dangerous illness for elderly individuals, especially since the Pope had part of one lung removed in his youth. The moment he was admitted to the hospital, the public immediately recognized the gravity of the situation and widespread concern began to grow. Despite this, during his hospital stay, Pope Francis demonstrated a clear determination not to give in. He appeared in public only a few times, most notably during a visit to a prison in Rome on Holy Thursday, a day of profound significance for Catholics, when the Pope traditionally visits marginalized or impoverished communities. Though brief, this visit drew significant attention from both the media and the public. While traveling between locations, he spoke with reporters about his health and assured them that he would recover soon. Nonetheless, rumors about the true state of his health began to spread. On social media platforms such as Telegram and WhatsApp, speculation arose that Pope Francis may have already passed away, especially as there were no obvious signs of improvement. These rumors were not entirely baseless given his history of severe health issues, including the lung surgery in his younger years due to serious pneumonia. This inevitably heightened concern among the public and even within Vatican circles. In this context, despite the Vatican's efforts to keep details about his condition under wraps by March 2025, a wave of suspicion and conspiracy theories started to emerge. These theories were fueled mainly by the Vatican's prolonged silence. Various individuals and a few external media outlets began widely spreading these speculations, including self-proclaimed independent investigators who even visited the hospital to uncover the truth about the Pope's health. One of the most prominent figures was Simone Basile, who called himself the 8th King of Rome and declared that his investigation confirmed the Pope was no longer in the hospital. Such claims only intensified suspicions of a cover-up and contributed to the continued spread of conspiracy theories across online communities. To address the growing turmoil, the Vatican was forced to revise its communication strategy. Unlike previous papacies, which traditionally kept health matters strictly confidential, this time the Vatican took a proactive approach by releasing detailed updates on the Pope's condition throughout March. Medical bulletins were issued regularly, even revealing information that had never been publicly disclosed before. Among them was a report that during treatment the Pope had accidentally inhaled his own vomit, a detail rarely shared in public statements. Through this level of unprecedented transparency, the Vatican aimed to disprove the swirling rumors about the Pope's death. These updates were not only meant to quell public speculation, but also represented the Vatican's effort to uphold information transparency despite the difficult climate fueled by fake news and misinformation. On March 22, 2025, the Vatican announced that Pope Francis had been discharged from the hospital and moved to Doma Sancti Ma to rest and continue his treatment and recovery. His release was widely seen as a sign that his health had improved. However, when the Vatican confirmed his passing on April 21, 2025, questions about his true condition in his final days resurfaced once more. Clearly, the Pope's death was not simply an end, but rather the beginning of many unresolved mysteries. Immediately after his death was confirmed, intense public debate erupted over how the Vatican had handled the communication regarding Pope Francis's health. Many began to question whether the information previously released truly reflected his actual condition, and whether the Vatican had been preparing for this outcome all along. 2. The secret videos and testimonies. When the Vatican officially confirmed Pope Francis's passing on April 21, 2025, another narrative quietly began to spread, stirring the global Catholic community and observers worldwide. This story wasn't solely about his death, but also centered on testimonies from Vatican Guards, individuals who directly witnessed the Pope's final moments. While the Vatican released official statements regarding his health during his illness, these side accounts, especially from the Guards, offered a contrasting perspective, raising more questions than providing clear answers. The first to share information publicly was a Vatican Guard who remained anonymous for months following the Pope's death. Eventually, this individual chose to speak out, revealing what truly transpired during the Pope's final hours. According to the Guard, the circumstances surrounding Pope Francis's death differed significantly from the official Vatican reports. The account detailed that on the morning of April 21, 2025, just before his passing, the Pope's health deteriorated rapidly and unexpectedly, contradicting the medical updates provided by the Vatican. The Guard noted that, contrary to reports of improvement, the Pope had fallen into a coma, unable to move or communicate. This starkly contrasted with the public image of a recovering Pope, ready to continue leading the Church. The depiction of the Pope's final moments as described by the Guard lacked the serenity portrayed in Vatican announcements. He wasn't resting peacefully in bed. Instead, signs of exhaustion and fatigue were evident on his face, and he couldn't speak. The Guard mentioned that at the time of his death, there was no grand or sacred scene, just a sudden end with doctors and a few family members present. A pressing question arises: why did this insider choose to remain silent for so long before speaking out? The Guard explained that they were instructed not to disclose any details about what truly happened after the Pope's death. This reflects the Vatican's characteristic discretion regarding significant events, especially those concerning the Pope's health. Historically, the Vatican has maintained secrecy on such matters to preserve the image of a spiritually and physically strong Pope. The Guard also acknowledged pressure from higher-ups within the Vatican to keep the truth about the Pope's passing confidential, aiming to protect the Church's image and ensure stability during the transition period. The Guard stated that only after a prolonged period of feeling that the truth couldn't remain hidden did they decide to share their account. Another reason was the proliferation of rumors and conspiracy theories about the Pope's death. The Guard felt a responsibility to provide an accurate and honest perspective, even if it might harm the traditional values the Vatican upholds. At the time the Vatican announced the Pope's death, the public received a brief statement from Cardinal Kevin Farrell, representing the Church, in delivering the sad news. According to the Vatican, the Pope passed away peacefully after battling pneumonia. Doctors reported that he was beyond recovery and died in a tranquil state. However, the Guard's testimony painted a different picture. They asserted that the Pope did not experience peace in his final days. Instead, he suffered from severe health issues and couldn't engage in public activities as the Vatican had reported. Moreover, details about his medical condition, such as aspirating vomit during treatment, were not disclosed until certain medical updates were released. This highlights the significant disparity between the Vatican's official narrative and what actually occurred in the Pope's final hours. The question remains, why were such details kept hidden for so long? Part of the reason may be the Vatican's desire to control information related to the Pope's health to prevent public unrest. The Vatican has a long-standing tradition of keeping the Pope's personal health issues, especially sensitive ones, confidential. By withholding information about his illness, the Vatican aimed to maintain the Church's dignity and a stable image during a turbulent time. Additionally, political factors might have influenced this decision. The Vatican holds significant sway in global affairs, and the death of a pope can create a power vacuum. This could lead to internal instability within the Church and affect relations with other nations, especially amid rumors that the Pope had died earlier. But the Vatican delayed the announcement to prevent public panic. After a prolonged silence, the Guard's decision to share their story marked a turning point in how people perceived Pope Francis's death. These testimonies not only provided a more authentic view of his final moments, but also shed light on the internal struggle over who controls the narrative surrounding the passing of one of the most renowned popes. The Guard emphasized that their intention was not only to reveal the truth, but also to protect the image of a pope they believed had been misunderstood and overshadowed during the information management process. 3. Theories about the death of Pope Francis. The death of Pope Francis on April 21, 2025, not only brought profound sorrow to the global Catholic community, but also sparked widespread discussions across social media platforms. Although the Vatican officially confirmed that he passed away due to complications from pneumonia, numerous conspiracy theories quickly emerged, particularly questioning the truth behind his death. These theories not only challenged the official statements, but also raised a series of questions concerning political factors, his health condition, and the possibility that the Vatican may have concealed part of the truth. New York Post. As early as March 2025, when rumors about Pope Francis's health began to spread, many people started to question whether he had died earlier than officially announced. Conspiracy theories rapidly circulated, fueled by the ambiguity in the Vatican's communication regarding his health status. Notably, when Simone Basile, a self-proclaimed eighth king of Rome, claimed to have visited the hospital where the Pope was supposedly receiving treatment and asserted that he was not present there. This rumor immediately captured public attention. Basile was not the only one to raise suspicions. On messaging platforms like Telegram and WhatsApp, various groups began disseminating theories suggesting that the Vatican had concealed the Pope's death to maintain political stability within the Church and to prevent a global crisis. Questions arose such as, could the Vatican have decided to delay announcing the Pope's death to allow him to die quietly, avoiding chaos? Or were there other political reasons, such as a sudden leadership change, that made immediate acknowledgement of his death impossible? Some prominent conspiracy theories posited that the Pope's death was not due to a common illness, but might be linked to internal political factors within the Church. Throughout his papacy, Pope Francis faced intense opposition from conservative factions, especially as he pursued significant reforms in financial and doctrinal matters. His initiatives on issues like sexual abuse, women's rights, and approaches to social matters, such as immigration, elicited negative reactions from conservative members of the Church. Some believed that his death could be part of a larger conspiracy aimed at obstructing his reforms. Debates about whether the Pope was being manipulated by internal Vatican forces became increasingly complex. Was his death a calculated power transfer orchestrated by those opposing his reforms? Or were external factors influencing decisions about his health and death, such as political relationships between the Vatican and other nations where the Pope held significant sway? One of the most notable conspiracy theories suggested that the Pope did not actually die, but that his death was a strategic move to facilitate a controlled transfer of power. Proponents of this theory argued that the Vatican staged a false death to buy time for preparing the next papal election without external pressure. According to this theory, the Pope's death was a political maneuver intended to allow internal Church negotiations and to ease tensions between conservative and progressive factions. While these theories lack concrete evidence, they continue to attract attention from those skeptical about the Vatican's transparency in managing information. The ambiguity in the Vatican's communication may stem from a desire to keep internal Church affairs confidential. Power struggles, financial issues within the Vatican, and debates over reforms are all factors that could have led the Vatican to obscure the truth about the Pope's death. Despite the conspiracy theories and speculations, the Vatican did acknowledge the Pope's health condition through public medical statements. However, delays in releasing detailed medical reports in early 2025 and the vagueness in information allowed conspiracy theories to flourish. The Pope's doctors confirmed that his condition deteriorated in his final days and that he was no longer able to care for himself. Nonetheless, his determined efforts to maintain a healthy image until his death led some to believe that the Vatican had created a facade to hide his poor health. Through medical bulletins and interviews with doctors, the Vatican attempted to protect the Pope's reputation while maintaining stability within the Church. However, the lack of transparency about his condition in the final months led many to question the reliability of these official reports. Although numerous conspiracy theories surround the Pope's death, some hypotheses can be attributed to the lack of transparency and ambiguity in information exchanges. The Vatican decided to disclose certain details about the Pope's health, but significant gaps remained in reporting changes in his condition. It's possible that the conspiracy theories and speculations are not entirely unfounded in suggesting that some significant events were concealed. However, these theories lack factual basis and primarily rely on the absence of information during the brief period when the Pope was gravely ill. Therefore, analyzing what truly happened in his final days requires a thorough understanding of the complexities of political relationships and the necessity of preserving the Vatican's image. 4. The reasons behind the Vatican's sudden transparency regarding Pope Francis's health. The passing of Pope Francis on April 21, 2025, was not only a major shock to the Catholic Church, but also sparked widespread controversy over how the Vatican communicates information to the public. In his final years, he faced numerous serious health issues. However, what stood out was the Vatican's sudden shift in its approach to disclosing information about his health, especially when his condition showed signs of severe decline at the beginning of 2025. Before 2025, the Vatican traditionally kept information about the health of popes highly confidential, particularly when it came to illness, in order to preserve the Pope's image and maintain stability within the Church. However, as Pope Francis's health deteriorated, the Vatican broke with this long-standing tradition and began releasing detailed updates about his medical condition. Starting in March 2025, when rumors of the Pope's death began to spread widely on social media and through unofficial media outlets, the Vatican was confronted with a communications crisis. Speculations and conspiracy theories about a fake death, political motives, and the concealment of the truth caused confusion and unrest within the Catholic community. To combat this wave of misinformation, the Vatican implemented a communication strategy unlike any it had used before. The Vatican began issuing daily medical updates about the Pope's condition, including detailed information about treatments, complications during his recovery, and even emergency incidents such as when he accidentally inhaled his own vomit during treatment. This approach stood in stark contrast to the Vatican's traditional policy, where such sensitive details were typically withheld to preserve the sanctity of the Pope's image. Why then did the Vatican choose to reveal such detailed information? The answer lies in the growing crisis of trust among both the faithful and the general public. As the Pope's health visibly declined and rumors of his death spread rapidly, the Vatican had no choice but to proactively provide verified information in order to affirm the truth and protect the Church's credibility. The disclosure of the Pope's medical condition can be understood as part of an open communication strategy designed to combat conspiracy theories and ease public anxiety. The Vatican didn't just issue medical bulletins, they also shared videos and photos of the Pope during his final days. One particularly notable video featured a short recording in which the Pope announced that his health had improved after a period of treatment. Undoubtedly, this decision was not an easy one for the Vatican, as it ran counter to a centuries-old tradition of secrecy. However, in today's open information era, where any event can be broadcast and shared instantly across social media, the Vatican came to realize that silence might cause more harm than transparency. Disclosing medical information became a necessary step in rebuilding trust and establishing transparency during an increasingly unstable time. Although this open disclosure might be viewed as a strategy to counter conspiracy theories and rumors, a significant question remains. Did the Vatican reveal this information out of a genuine commitment to transparency, or was it merely a reluctant response to pressure? Some analysts argue that this move may have resulted from miscalculations in handling the situation. The Vatican's decision to go public could have stemmed from its early failure to control the narrative in early 2025, when speculation about the Pope's death spread unchecked and caused widespread confusion. Furthermore, it is possible that the Vatican came to understand that in a digital world where rumors and misinformation can spread rapidly and uncontrollably, withholding information only makes matters worse. The delay in releasing updates about the Pope's health created a vacuum that conspiracy theories easily filled. As a global institution, the Vatican must ensure that the faith of its followers is not eroded during times when the Pope is gravely ill. Therefore, the disclosure of his health condition can be seen as a strategic effort to maintain stability within the Church and in the minds of believers. The publication of videos and images of the Pope during his illness, a practice the Vatican had rarely, if ever, employed in the past, could reflect a shift toward a more reform-oriented communication strategy under the papacy of Pope Francis. With this change, the Vatican demonstrated to some extent its commitment to adapting to the demands of the information age. However, this also raises a pressing question. Can the Vatican sustain this level of transparency when facing future challenges and upheavals, particularly when vital matters related to health and politics may still be shaped by strategic decisions? 5. Health issues of Pope Francis. Pope Francis from a young age has faced serious health issues. In the 1950s, when he was a young man in Argentina, he contracted a severe lung disease that led to surgery to remove part of his lung. However, his health issues did not stop there. Lung problems became a significant and lasting factor throughout his life, particularly when he became pope. This explains why respiratory issues became an important factor affecting his health in his later years. Throughout his papacy, Pope Francis faced many health challenges. Despite being known for his optimism and dedication, his poor health often limited his ability to carry out important duties. His hospitalizations in the later years of his papacy, particularly in 2025, have made the image of a strong leader, like in his early days, appear much more frail. In the final months of his life, Pope Francis's health deteriorated rapidly. In early 2025, he was hospitalized due to a complex respiratory infection diagnosed as pneumonia. This illness became more severe and harder to treat due to his long history of lung disease from a young age. However, before his passing, the Vatican announced that the Pope was making efforts to recover, and there were signs that his health was gradually improving. This led to increased rumors about his death, as people began to question the authenticity of these announcements. Despite his declining health, the Pope continued to carry out visits and important work. However, his health visibly weakened, which certainly affected his leadership ability. Nevertheless, one of the most notable qualities of his papacy was his perseverance and tireless work ethic, which earned him respect from both followers and leaders within the Church. Pope Francis left a significant mark on the history of the Catholic Church, not only religiously, but also through the groundbreaking reforms he implemented. One of the most significant legacies of his papacy was the extensive reforms within the Vatican and the global Church, particularly in financial and ethical matters. He took proactive steps to address long-standing issues within the Church, such as the sexual abuse scandals involving clergy members. Under his leadership, the Vatican faced the painful reality and acknowledged past mistakes. He pushed for extensive investigations and demanded that perpetrators be held accountable. Although these reforms were not always supported by conservative groups within the Church, they helped the Church confront major challenges and opened a new era of transparency. In addition, Pope Francis paid particular attention to the issue of climate change and environmental protection, a matter that had previously received little attention from the Church. He called on Catholic believers worldwide to take action to protect the earth, while also criticizing unsustainable economic policies. He also proposed financial reforms within the Vatican to reduce corruption and increase transparency in the Church's asset management. Besides reforms in organization and ethics, Pope Francis was also known for promoting interfaith dialogue. He took bold steps to build peaceful relationships with other religions, particularly Islam and Judaism, which was crucial in improving the Church's image in the modern world. Despite his major reforms, Pope Francis's papacy was not without controversy. Conservative groups within the Church often criticized his reformist policies, particularly on issues such as same-sex marriage and the role of women in the Church. These groups argued that with his revolutionary reforms, the Pope had gone too far and was eroding the traditional values of the Catholic Church. Moreover, one of the major challenges Pope Francis faced was his worsening health, which diminished his leadership capacity and influence. Maintaining power in such a large and divided institution like the Vatican made many of his decisions difficult to implement. Internal opposition and his health issues significantly impacted the reform process and may have delayed or prevented the completion of some of his plans. The health of a pope not only affects their leadership ability, but also impacts the trust of followers and the credibility of the Church. When a pope falls ill, health issues can cause instability within the Church, leading to doubts among the faithful and Church officials about the Pope's ability to lead. In Pope Francis's case, his increasingly serious health problems led the Church to face a media crisis. As vague information and conspiracy theories began to spread, his determination to continue his work, despite health problems, became a symbol of perseverance and dedication. However, the decline in his health ultimately highlighted the challenges faced by a leader of millions of followers, particularly in a complex and influential institution like the Vatican. 6. Global reactions after the death of Pope Francis. The passing of Pope Francis has left a deep void within the Catholic community. Millions of followers have expressed their sorrow and regret upon hearing of his death. Under his leadership, the Catholic Church made significant strides in addressing internal issues, particularly the sexual abuse crisis and financial reforms within the Church. The reactions of Catholics worldwide have been varied. While many have expressed deep sadness and acknowledged his important contributions in rebuilding the Church, others feel concerned about the future of the Church without his guidance. The faithful from Latin America, where Pope Francis had a strong connection, have especially expressed a tremendous sense of loss. They viewed him as an ally for the poor, a fighter for social justice, and notably a strong voice against injustice. However, not all Catholics agreed with the Pope. Conservative factions within the Church, particularly those with strict views on issues like same-sex marriage and divorce, strongly criticized his reforms. After the Pope's passing, some began to hope that the Church would return to its traditional values and discontinue the controversial reforms. The death of Pope Francis has also prompted strong reactions from world leaders and international organizations. Many nations have expressed deep sorrow and simultaneously praised his significant contributions to promoting peace, interfaith dialogue, and environmental protection. World leaders from the United States, Italy, France, as well as Catholic-majority countries such as Brazil, the Philippines, and Mexico have all paid tribute to his great legacy. Condolences from President Joe Biden, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, and French President Emmanuel Macron highlighted Pope Francis's powerful spiritual leadership on global issues. In addition, many international organizations have sent sincere condolences. The United Nations issued a statement honoring Pope Francis's contributions to human rights and global climate protection. With his progressive views on climate change, humanitarian crises, and global economic issues, Pope Francis truly became a spiritual leader, not only for Catholics, but also for non-believers. In contrast to the official reactions from national leaders and international organizations, the online space became lively and complex, with differing opinions on the Pope's death. While many used social media to express their sorrow and prayers for him, conspiracy theories about his death began to spread. Some people claimed that, like many significant events in history, the Pope's death had been concealed or involved. Political factors, Rumors about the suppression of the truth and vague investigations into his death continued to attract attention from some internet users, particularly on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. Stories about the Pope's health condition and secretive actions in his final days sparked intense debates in social media groups. These rumors not only caused doubt about the Vatican's official announcement, but also sparked skepticism about the transparency with which the Church handled information. Not only was there division in global reactions, but within the Catholic community itself. The Pope's death also highlighted internal divisions. Conservative and progressive groups engaged in heated debates about his legacy and the future direction of the Church. Reform supporters argued that the Pope's death marked the end of an era of renewal, while conservative groups hoped the Church would return to traditional values. These opposing views have further increased polarization within the Church and raised significant questions about the future path of the Catholic Church after his departure. The legacy of Pope Francis, though still controversial, will forever be a key milestone in the history of the Catholic Church. He was not just a religious leader, but also a pioneer of significant social changes worldwide. His reforms in finance, peace, and environmental protection will be crucial elements of his legacy, and these changes will undoubtedly continue in the years to come, whether through his successors or through global movements he started. The death of Pope Francis not only marked the end of an era, but also opened up many questions about what really happened in his final hours. Testimonies from Vatican Guards have revealed a new perspective on the controversial event and the conspiracy theories surrounding it. Although the Vatican strives for transparency, speculation and doubts continue to arise. This shows that even though we may know the truth about the Pope's death, there is still much that has not been revealed and may remain hidden forever. The reforms and legacy he left behind will certainly have a profound impact on both the Church and the world. The big remaining question is whether his successor will continue the path of reform that he initiated or return to traditional values. If you found this video interesting and want to explore more fascinating stories, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss any of our videos. Please share your thoughts on this topic in the comments below, and feel free to share this video with your friends. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos.